Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. My name is Sarah, and today my co-host Carrie Bennett and I are going to be making these complex topics of quantum biology and circadian biology understandable to the everyday person. Thank you so much for tuning in. We ask that if you are listening on audio only, that you take a moment to leave us up to a 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube, leave us a like, leave us a comment. It will help to get the show out to more people. And before we jump into today's topic, just a quick reminder to head down to the show notes and check out my free resources as well as Carrie's free resources. We also do have courses on a variety of topics. If you are hoping to dive deeper, Carrie and I both have practitioner courses available as well for anyone who wants to begin to bring these topics to their clients and help them to implement these strategies into their daily lives. So check those out. We also have a co-taught course called Quantum Fertility that is available that allows people and practitioners to work on their fertility using these principles of quantum biology and circadian biology. Again, thank you so much for listening or watching today's show, whichever one you are doing. And let's go ahead and jump into it now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. On our previous episode, we talked all about an office environment and how to mitigate a lot of that stuff for just like being in an indoor working environment, period. Maybe not even an office, but the one thing that we really didn't get to discuss because we just ran out of time was the human EMF, right? Because we all emit EMF, right? It's something that we do, but how do we deal with that, and what could be the potential impact on our health and on our body?
Sure.
Let's start, Carrie.
Well, whenever I was in an office environment, or actually my work environment was more a retail experience, but there's the idea that you need to gossip, right? When you get there.
Huge. I had this boss, I worked in an office starting when I was 19, and I had this boss that she would literally choose the person in the office who she was going to give a hard time. It was so crazy. Now they look back on it. I was like a kid working in this office, but it was you do not want to be her target for torture. It's her mental games that she's going to play with you, passive aggressive emails that she'll write to the whole office, but it's just about this one person. I mean, it was
that's very toxic.
Very toxic. We would literally get these emails with all these I think I saved some of them because they were so insane. I don't have them anymore, but I remember getting these emails and they had all these spelling errors and they were just mean. And we know we're oh, she's talking about Julie in this email. But she's punishing the whole office. If you're watching this and you have worked in one of those environments, I'm sure you could relate to.
Yeah.
Just these situations that you have to find yourself in when you're in these types of jobs sometimes, right?
Yeah, it's a fine line between having friends and having some downtime, but also navigating or understanding that, engaging in this gossipy, even mean girl type of an environment, type of situation.
Very mean girl. Yeah.
It really is it's not doing your health any benefits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number one, your mitochondria are responding to your state of stress and fear and anger, right? And so if any of those things are driving up stress, fear, or anger right there, mitochondria are really going to start to downregulate their energy production, right?
That is backed in the research, correct?
It is. Martin Picard, psychosomatic responses to mitochondria and stress.
Go look it up on PubMed.
Right. And so, Martin Picard's doing a ton about psychological stress and mitochondrial efficiency, and psychological stress will tank it. And I don't know, that's a very stress. As we talked about in the previous episode, office environments are typically stressful in general simply because of their light and their non-native EMFs and their disconnection from nature. Mm-hmm. Now you layer in this idea that there's people that you have that might be adding to this stress level. And so I just encourage you to recognize that if you to distance yourself whenever possible, because those sorts of things can impact your mitochondrial health. Your nervous system is keying in on, am I in a safe space, right? That's always what it's like. Is there a survival threat? Am I in a safe space? And unfortunately, oftentimes people can contribute to a space not feeling safe. You know, I'm of the opinion these days, not AirPods, but I would probably just wear wired headphones and not actually plugged into anything. Like my phone would be on airplane mode, but it'd be plugged into my phone on airplane mode or just off. So people just kind of don't think they kind of ignore me. It's like, oh, Carrie's just listening to a
blue blockers on, and you got your wired headphones in.
Not always easy,
and a
right?
baseball cap.
Like not if you're customer facing. When you're customer facing, it's a completely different situation. But like even even in the break room, maybe, right? You know, being able to just take if you're around people who kind of create that type of a toxic environment, just maybe disengage yourself from it, or just don't hear it. Like tune it out so that you don't need to just, you know, be around that. You'll see changes in things like heart rate variability, because our heart's magnetic field is truly the way that we connect to each other from the furthest distance, right? And so, you know, if you can see changes in your heart rate variability, and your heart absolutely communicates to your brain. Your heart has its own nervous system that absolutely will be communicating to your brain. And so again, just try to distance yourself from that sort of a thing. It sounds kind of stupid, I guess, but it 100% makes a difference. And I've noticed that in terms of who I choose to be around these days, you know, what I choose to watch on TV, what I choose to listen to. It makes a difference in terms of the overall state of our health and our nervous system's ability to think we're safe. And then we can, and then if it thinks it's safe, it thinks it can dedicate energy to healing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think this is one of the things that you and I see both a lot in our communities, and it's hard to teach, you know, it's something you kind of just have to embody, is just the impact that the perceptions that the person is having about their health, about the non-native EMF, about like the toxicity, about all of that. I think it really, really impacts them on a cellular level more so than the actual thing. Is their perception and ideas of those things, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You know, there is something to be said also about doing things that build resilience, right? This is and there's things that can build resilience that don't necessarily, we're not talking about necessarily you needing to go deep into meditation, which I love deep meditation, don't get me wrong, but there's things you can do to kind of build up resilience to all forms of stressors. I love the research on hormesis, right? So hormesis is just, right, it's like something is a hormetic stressor when it pushes your body out of homeostasis. It temporarily really actually stresses the body, but in the body's ability to heal from that stressor, it becomes stronger and more resilient. So they'll do studies on things like heat and cold and exercise and even chemical exposures, right? And it's like the dose essentially does make the poison with that, because when people do have maybe a temporary short-term, really just like acute chemical exposure, that their body's like, uh-oh, damage, we got to heal from that. And when you compare people who have experienced different stressors like exercise, heat, cold, those sorts of ones, don't douse yourself with chemicals. But like exercise, heat, cold, even ultraviolet light can create a hormesis response in the body. So when we give your body those sorts of stressors and give the body a chance to recover from them, right? That's key. The recovery, which you talked about in our exercise episode, that is key. So if you can do that on a regular basis, you're going to be more resilient when a big time stressor comes about than someone else who hasn't given their body those chances to build that stress adaptation. And so, again, yes, it's about your building resilience, and it's about your perception then of that particular stressor. That can go a long way in terms of how your body's going to respond to that particular stressor.
Yeah. There's a lady in my group right now who's been around this work for a bit, and she's really been working hard to implement it. And she deals with pretty crippling autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis, but she has been in remission from it because she's been just really strict. And she went out to dinner with some friends recently and had a meal that was like gluten and dairy and just like all the and seed oils and all the things. And she was like in the group the next day, she's like, well, like, I didn't have any I don't have any joint pain today. Like, I'm okay. Like, She was like worried about it. I'm like, no, this is a good sign. She's like, well, does this mean I could just start eating like that? I'm like, no, it does not. But what it means is that your body has developed resilience, and you were also probably like having fun, like out with your friends, doing something that was enjoyable. You probably really enjoyed the thing that you had to eat, And so instead of your body like freaking out, it's okay, cool. Like we can handle this, but you don't want to be eating that kind of stuff every single day or doing that all the time. But it's showing that your body is becoming more resilient to those things, right?
Yeah, totally. It's the same concept of like kind of what we talk about, like a refeed, a carb refeed. If you've been in
Yes.
ketosis for a while, your
Hmm.
body needs that. It needs to switch its metabolic,
Yes.
basically into more sugar burning or glucose metabolism, so that you can actually maintain metabolic flexibility. That's another sign of resilience. So
Yeah.
yeah, the people thing is one that I really never thought of, even until I understood nervous system and I understood the ether.
Mm.
And I don't know if we need to go into the ether, but basically that's another form of energy that we're getting all the time. And the way that we get that energy, which this has been known for centuries, right? This is nothing new. It just might be
Right.
a little bit too out there for some people. But the way that we can actually take in that charge and of the ether and distribute it is based on some emotional states, right? So
Mhm.
when we're in a state of fear or hatred or anger, look out, right? We're actually not going to be creating a system where we're pulling in that life force energy and then maintaining
Mhm.
what the physics calls neg entropy, or like not going into chaos, not going into disarray, right? We're
Mhm.
designed to be these coherent, self organizing systems,
Mhm.
but that's very hard to do when we're around or expressing all the time, right? And I'm not saying don't express it, because
Mhm.
I think it's actually very healthy to emote and
Yes.
that and get those emotions out, be able to express your emotions, but at the same time surrounding yourself with people who are continually just gossiping,
Complaining.
nagging.
Yeah.
Um, or here's what we've seen. I know you can probably relate to this, that we've seen in the past 4 years is, I'm going to fear this. 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 Right. I'm afraid of, there's so many things that we've been taught. We've been told that we need to fear, that have been in our environment. And
Mhm.
I think the fear is enough to really suppress your immune system and
I
not
think so
allow your
too.
body to handle
And all
whatever
the
it's exposed to.
autoimmune conditions are just literally exploding, like literally exploding. Like so many people have them, and it's mostly women, and it's just like something's going on, guys. It's not. I don't necessarily think it's a super super increase in the environment. I think yeah, it's changed. There's different things, but it's not. The response is not what it should be, I think, to the change that's been happening. I don't know. I don't know. I'm
Well,
just
I
opening a can
think,
of worms here.
yeah, let's just use language that's not going to get us censored. I do think that there's been some environmental pressures, right? Let's put it that
Yes.
way. That may
Yes.
be tipping the scale that way, but at the same time,
Yes, that.
I do put was that subtle enough? I do I do put fear up there in terms of that. It's, how can a body heal if it thinks it's being chased by a saber-toothed
Attacked.
tiger?
Attacked.
Right?
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
can't.
So, Carrie, what is the biggest thing you would say with people and red light therapy panels that doesn't get talked about a lot?
So many people talk about how inconvenient it is to kind of set them up. And sometimes they just want to put them directly on their body, and you really can't
Mhm.
because of the non-native EMFs.
Yeah, exactly. That is why we are both so excited that we have these little battery operated bond charge panels. You can put them right here on your skin, and you're not going to be getting all that non native EMF. You can set it up for your kids, put it right next to them, and you don't have to set them up in front of a big panel and make them sit 6 to 12 inches away, right?
Yeah. So, like when my kids have stomach aches or things, that is my go to. I pull out that panel, I lift up the shirt, I just set it on them, and they could still be reading, coloring, doing what they're doing while at the same time getting the red light therapy, like you said, in a very kid friendly way.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of parents just even put them up on the ear when they have ear infections, earaches. It is just so, I mean, I'm just doing it here on my ear right now. It feels so good. So, These are absolutely fantastic. You can use the code Quantum Pod, all one word. There'll be a link down in the show notes to save on yours. And these are from Bond Charge. So if you are someone who just wants the convenience of a red light therapy panel, doesn't want to worry about non-native EMF, you can just put it right on your skin and get skin healing benefits, as well as infrared that can penetrate through and actually provide some mitochondrial support as well. These are absolutely fantastic. So check the link out down in the show notes and use the code Quantum Pod to save on yours.
Fear has to be something, I used to be the one that I was like, oh, look at this. Did you read this? Oh, look at this. Right. Like, just diving into the research and the news and wanting to know. And I've stepped back on it, it just doesn't serve me in the same way that I thought it did.
It's so fun. Like I opened my phone today and it was like plant-based processed foods may lead to an early death. I'm like,
earth shattering.
Wow. Okay. No, I will not be clicking on that article. File under like, duh. I mean,
well, all news.
It's
sensational.
It's meant to trigger you. It's meant to, and that's what the algorithms do on Instagram and YouTube and all this. Like that is, you have to push someone's button in a certain way in order to get the people coming to look at that content. Like that is how these companies are profiting, is like, how long can we keep people on this app? Like what kind of enticing thing can we do to scare them, to get them emotionally involved, to get them riled up? And it's a tough balance you have to maintain with, wanting to understand things, and then how emotionally involved are you getting in it,
Yeah. I have a family member who is very emotionally involved in reading news articles, and we'll read the same articles. And it's like, I finally come to the point, I can accept something with awareness and just like detachment, but just, okay, I know. Right. As opposed to just getting literally viscerally angry to the point of high blood pressure and just yelling, it's just, there's different ways that you can receive the information, and there's different ways that you can receive a stressor. Like there's different ways driving to work, where if you're cut off by someone, you can either let that ruin your day, that driver, and go into maybe, I can't believe it, and just relive it. Or you can say, whew, that person might need a little bit of a refresh on their driving skills or whatever it is. Right. And just kind of let it go.
It's not personal. Like that's the thing I think that's helped me the most, is that even when somebody may come on to, like this morning, I didn't even read it. It was like 4 paragraphs long about how stupid women are and this, that, and the other, and like attacking the guest. And I was like, oh, block and delete. Like I can't read this because it had nothing to do with me or the guest. This was purely whatever was going on with this person that clearly spent about 45 minutes typing up this whole thing to go on my YouTube. And I'm like, has nothing to do with me. Nothing. Like, and that's, if I'm driving like an asshole, like if I'm on my phone and I'm not like paying attention, people are going to honk at me and they're going to get pissed off. But if I'm just like driving along, staying in my lane, doing my thing, and someone comes in, they're like crazy, that's them, that's their energy. And it would just be somebody else besides me that they would be honking at and having a fit over, that's just their thing. And it doesn't have anything to do with me. Like I didn't wake up today and cause that for that person. And so, it's way easier said than done. Like,
for sure. For sure. Yeah. My internal dialogue sounds very similar to yours. When there's something, a comment or something, it's like, step 1, I'm going to prove this person wrong, right? Like how dare they say I prove this? And then step 2 is going to be, well, how does that serve me? Doesn't really serve me. Well, why would I waste my time? This person's probably wouldn't carry the weight.
It's going to anyway. They're committed to their
close their dopamine loop, right? Which is part of it as well.
That's a big motivation for me about not responding or just blocking and deleting. Is like I'm not closing your dopamine loop. I'm just going to leave you hanging out there, like, because you don't know on YouTube when someone's like been blocked and deleted. Like they have no idea. So
there you go.
Bye.
Yeah.
As James, my 20-month-old says, bye.
Yeah, no, it really is, but it's taken a long time for me to get to that point because I used to be way more reactive, but
Yeah.
I just see it serving me, and I see it not serving other people when they kind of get into that just immediate anger and want to get
Turn that energy. Like
exactly.
when I'm emoting that way, when I'm angry, when I go at somebody, like it doesn't feel good and it's hurting my body. Like getting into the petri dish experiments and really doing a lot of the Veda's freezing experiments here in the house. When Dr. Sarah was here, we had like petri dishes, like we're doing this for like days on end. It was so fun. But I really did notice the impact that, and I think you have to learn how to work with the water too. I don't know that anyone can just like pick this up and do it, but I did notice like how water does respond to energy and emotion and just seeing the different things. And I'm like, wow, like that's happening inside my body as well. And so when I am putting negativity or something not so favorable out into the world, what does that do? What is that doing? How is that serving me? How is that serving my health, the water in my body? Like, what is that? When you can actually see it in the dish, you're like, wait a minute, like we're not detached from this sort of energy. We don't get to escape from, what it does to us.
Well, it's the direct reflection of that is the research that shows that DNA gene expression shifts and changes based on our thoughts, based on our emotions, right? So it's not even what we're maybe even just expressing verbally, but it's also what we're thinking. And you heard my thought patterns. It's like, oh, I'm going to give this person, some business, right? And then, but then
educate them,
right? Educate them, exactly. But then, and then you like pull back from it. And so I actually view that as a healthy stress, right? Where it's like, let me just kind of really feel what's going to happen, and then kind of then pull back. It's like, okay,
let go.
Exactly. It's like I processed it. I don't feel any, I don't feel any need to think about it anymore, right? It's gone. Boom, gone. Stress is gone. And so it feels, and then the vast majority of the time, I'm very aware of wanting to speak kindly to my body, speak kindly to other people, be around other people who do the same back to me. When at all possible. And like you said, when when the occasional person comes in and is not super kind, it's like, okay, that's probably them having a really bad day. It's more a reflection on them than it is on me.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be difficult because like we were saying in our previous episode, you work in an office environment with people who are that way. So, and my husband sometimes gets into these like really negative loops. And it's my husband. So I can just be like, don't talk like that around me. I don't like those words. Like, I don't like it. Like, it's not helping. I'll just call him out. I'm like, how is this helping you? Like, I will literally just point blank ask him when he starts doing like the negative thing. And he'll do it to me too now. So I don't get to just be scot-free. Like, and I'm not perfect. I sometimes get into this negativity thing, but like, he calls me out now and I'm like, yes, you're correct. Okay. Yeah. I will course correct. I don't have to go down this pattern, but like, I'll just point blank tell him and ask him like, how is this helping the kids? How is this helping you? How is this helping the situation to do this? And he's like, yeah. Instead of what I think a lot of people will do is like attack somebody like on YouTube or whatever, or even just like in these personal, they'll just go to attack somebody or like push their buttons. Instead of doing that, just really ask the question, like, what purpose does this serve right now? How is this helpful? Please just let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great awareness exercise for sure. For sure. Yeah. And so, I say, I always go, the best way that we could show up in life with these types of things is to model the behavior that we want others to respond to. Right. So if at all possible in an office environment, if you, model it by not gossiping back, model it by removing yourself from that situation, model it by, yes, if boss is being a jerk today, it's like, okay, I'm not going to let it, eat at me, let it go. Right. It's again, easier said than done, but just knowing what we know about the water, especially for me, that was the aha moment. My water is always listening.
Always. Always.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and it's always looking for coherence. So
It is.
that's something that I learned from Veda, which is very fascinating. And that's water does not want to lose coherent structure.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Right.
It was hard for me to unstructure the water in this house. Like I was kind of shocked by how hard it was to unstructure the water. I was like, huh, yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
want to be
It doesn't
unstructured.
want to. And when it
Mm-mm,
does get unstructured, it's seeking to get back to structure and it's back
mm-mm.
to coherence. So this isn't like I have to be Little Miss Perfect all the time and sing joyful tunes, hum a happy
No,
tune my whole life. But at the same
no.
time, it's like, okay, maybe there was a bout where you were angry, mad, frustrated. That's great. That's okay. That's fine. That's normal. The water wants to come back into coherence. So give it an opportunity, right? Either
Mm-hmm,
with your thoughts, your emotions, through your breath, through spending time in nature. All
mm-hmm,
that can go a long way. And your nervous system will respond to that as well, right?
mm-hmm.
You bring in your nervous system, those inputs, your nervous system will also respond as well. And, we've said this, I think, many times on this podcast, but it never hurts saying it again. Nervous system work is so synergistic
Mm-hmm.
with the stuff that we do
Mm-hmm.
here. Right.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
really, really can work hand in hand. And I think other people who actually do it could come from the nervous system perspective, those
They
practitioners,
come here.
I found the exact same thing. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
this really enhances what we do. So it's like really something that I think if you haven't done nervous system stuff and you still are on a healing journey, think about that through the lens of Irene Lyon, primal trust.
Mm-hmm.
There's more hands-off modalities even that I've seen work as well. But there's a lot of beautiful nervous system work out there that can be done. And I think more and more people, just based on our environments these days, we oftentimes need that nervous system support.
And I had a lady that came into my group over the last week, and she just was like, I did a lot of brain retraining, and that helped me tremendously with food reactions, and it helped me tremendously with all this stuff that was like health related, was brain retraining. And someone was like, well, what does that even look like? And she's like, and I was curious too, like, how do you define that? How did that actually, what did you do? And she basically was like, whenever I had a thought that was like, this is hurting you, this is killing you, or this is bad. Like she had to like talk back to the thought and be like, that's not true. Like, this isn't like she basically had to like look at these thoughts that were unproductive, that were just total nonsense. And she kind of knew it, but she had to start talking back to them and replace them with a new belief. And for her, she didn't have to go spend tons of money on a program. It was just that simple for her to shift her biology. This is something that my body is like, and then I'm going to replace that belief. So if you're like, I don't have the money to go spend on a program, maybe you just try that out, combine it with this circadian work. Cause I do that all the time. Like I have intrusive thoughts, and I'm like, no, it's not true. It's not actually a thing. But what is the truth? Okay, let me say that. Let me affirm that and really hold that as truth. And it does really make an impact, I think.
Well, funny you say that, because my high school volleyball coach, we thought he was kind of weird, but every time he's not weird. He's a lovely human being. He was great, but we thought he was weird for saying this, because anytime we had missed a serve or shanked a pass or something like that, he would have us say, cancel deflect. And just like cancel it out. Okay. Starting new. And so I would start to say that in my head, just throughout my regular day. Like if I started by catching myself in high school, thinking something that I thought wasn't good for me. It didn't really, know much about nervous system or anything at the time. I would just say, cancel deflect and, poof, right. Just get that out of your field, right? Deflect it. I now picture like getting out of my field, right? Don't become a part of my biofield and recycle back into me. It's just like, you can go now. You don't serve me.
I love that. I think that's something that anyone listening can take with them and just start implementing that, and it's what's the alternative? That's what I always say to my husband when he gets in one of his negative little mindsets. I'm like, okay, well then what's the alternative? Okay, then what are we going to do about it? Because it kind of takes the emotionality out of it. And it's like, okay, then now what? How does that serve us? How does that help us? And then what are we going to do about it? And sometimes the best thing to do is change your energy around a specific thing. And maybe if you do have a work situation or a really toxic environment,
maybe you need to start putting out there to transition to something else, to bring something else into your life to allow you to leave that situation. And I've seen people do that hundreds of times.
Oh, yes.
So many
Many
times.
times.
This situation, you're uncomfortable in this situation. You've outgrown it. It is no longer for you. There's something better for you, but you have to be open to bringing that in. And maybe I'm getting a little too woo for the conversation, but it has worked so well in my life and so many of my friends and different clients of like, hey, I'm super uncomfortable. Maybe I'm needing to open myself to the possibility of something different in my life, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother, I think that could be a fun one if people are ready for some woo on that. Hey, I have to go. I got to hop on an Instagram live, but thanks for chatting.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.